a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
Hey, what's up guys? So I got a new video that just came out for one of my clients, Trans Am Worldwide. It's a fun one. It's the newest Trans Am that they just released, which is also literally the last Trans Am that they're making on the body style. Right now they're focusing on their 70 SS, which is their Chevelle tribute, and they'll be back to Trans Ams in the future. But this is the last one that they built. They made it a one-off HO, and the video's doing pretty darn well. It's been out a couple of weeks, got over 350,000 plays on it. And the reason I wanted to talk about it and why you might find interest in it is, one, I think it's a cool video you might want to check out.
I received a phone call earlier this year. The voice on the other end said, look, I know you're phasing out the Trans Am, you're moving toward the Chevelle, but would you consider doing one more?
When I was young, my daddy said, gotta keep one eye open in your bed, 'cause there's a time coming when the devil gonna come for you.
A lot of sentiment in the Trans Am name on this alpha platform that all the Trans Am start life as. It's a very, very high performing, extremely comfortable platform that we've gotten used to over the last couple of years. So to see it go is gonna be hard.
So my trigger finger, stay prepared. I've got my weapon and I got my prayers, 'cause if you don't run this town, they'll walk all over you.
An idea occurred to me. What if we did something we've never done before? We do one time, and that's it. I approached him about doing an HO.
Run out loud, gotta run on. Keep on running till the sun goes down. Run out loud, better run on. Run all day till you can't be found.
Now, HO is an acronym for high output, and it was an engine package that Pontiac started back in the early 60s. That was in the 421 cubic inch. In subsequent years, they used it in the 426, the 326, the 350, and in 1968 and 69, they came out with a 400 cubic inch HO edition.
Run out loud, gotta run on. Keep on running till the sun goes down. You can hour the devil, but you ain't gonna hour me.
And that was when it made it into the Firebird series and later the Trans Am.
You ain't gonna hour me.
I used the Canon R5 C a lot. Now I know a lot of you guys are here because you probably discovered me from the videos that I put out about the Canon R5 C. I talk about this camera a bit too much. And I'm also a Red owner, and this is part of why I've been so amazed with the Canon R5 C is how well it's kept up with my Red. And over the last year and a half, I guess, of having the Canon R5 C, how I end up using it more often. And the reason is because when I'm traveling, it's the go-to setup. It's a lot more cumbersome to take my full Red rig with me. I'm not using a Red Komodo. I have an older Red Epic Dragon. It is heavier, it is larger. The Komodo looks absolutely fantastic and amazing, but I just don't, I'm so excited and happy with the Canon R5 C. I'm hard pressed to not just get another Canon R5 C and have two of them. They're that good. And what I wanted to point out about this current video that's out that's doing well with the Trans Am, and I'm really proud of how a lot of these shots came out, is how much of it is Canon R5 C footage. So all of the driving shots, unless it's on a tripod or in the air from a drone, all those car-to-car driving shots, that's all the Canon R5 C. The majority of the lit product shots of the Trans Am are the Canon R5 C, the majority of them, and I'll explain why I chose that more often than the Red in a second.
Multiple lights happening here, light up the rear. I've got a floor light. This is a long box that runs along the line of the car. Really helps just light and flex out the lines that I have in here. On the body of the car, we got this big guy here, big overhead, nice grid to diffuse the light enough that you can't tell, you don't get like a giant spot on it. Then we got this guy with the grid for the front grille. And then we've got a couple of lights set up over there that are kind of just giving a little accent in the background just to give depth, but I'm not really highlighting the background. And as we come back here, we've got, it's probably gonna look overexposed in the phone, but here's the first shot. A great looking opening shot. And then I've got this guy over here with the longer lens. So I'll be bouncing back and forth between both this red camera and the Canon.
And also the 3 interviews that were conducted were done with Canon R5 C as the A camera. The red is amazing. The R5 C is not better than the red. It's just how well it keeps up with it, and it also offers me autofocus, and it does better in low light situations, and it's a smaller form factor that I can take more places and travel with, and it mounts to the car on the Tilta Hydra Alien Arm system.
And then I will be controlling it from my phone, sitting passenger seat, while Todd's son Ben drives. Thing was killer.
It's not perfect. I'm a little disappointed that I can't control more aspects of the Canon R5 C through the DJI app for the RS3 Ronin when I have it all set up and connected together. I wish I could change many more things than I can. The only thing that I can really do is steer the camera. I can't change the aperture. I can't change the ISO. That is a bit of an issue. So I end up setting it on, I can't change the frame rate. I can't change anything. All I can do is rely on autofocus and point the camera. And I'll usually do like a center point focus and put it maybe just a little bit low or a little bit high, depending on how I want to pitch the camera, if I want to get more road or if I want to get more sky, depending on what the weather's doing or how cool the road environment is. So I'll just have like a center box. I'll go with the wide box on it. I do recommend that. I'm putting the aperture around 8. F8 is a pretty good space. Sometimes I'll go to F11. Occasionally I'm doing it at F5, 6. I did test a little bit at 2.8 and it works pretty darn good. The problem with going with the shallow depth of field on this is that a car, depending on the angles that you're getting, you want the whole thing to be in focus, and it's got, long focal depth to it, from the front to the back. You can't have all that in focus at the same time if you're at an f2.8, for instance. That's why I'm using the higher apertures, or lower apertures, however you want to call it. The higher, it is higher. I always talk about it a little bit dyslexic, the same way I do a guitar, what's considered the top strings and the bottom strings. The low strings are supposed to be the bottom, but I call them the top strings. I'm a little bit, I think I am a little bit dyslexic. Anyway, why did I use it in the studio lit shots? Why did I find myself using the Canon more than the red? The reason is it's the 8K. Now, I know people, I did a video about is 8K filming, is it overkill? And I point out reasons why I don't think it's overkill. And I'm gonna point out a couple of those reasons right now, real world situation, why I ended up using the 8K. If you're not taking advantage of the 8K in the marketing that you're doing to your client, if you're filming for somebody, getting paid to do your videos, you're missing out, because one of the things that I offer all my clients is that I will give them photos pulled out from their final color graded film. This is a tremendous bonus that keeps a theme and a high production look to anything that they want to apply it to that can be married with their video for their website, for instance. They'll have a consistent theme and look from these awesome color graded photos from your final film. But also clients are wanting to print stuff. If it's 8K, they can simply print it bigger. I mean, you're just giving bigger images that they can do more things with. With the cars and stuff, I mean, some of these people are literally printing these pulled frames as photos to put up in their houses for their builds, Some people, they might be doing a car show, and then they want to have pictures and banners up printed at large sizes. When you explain that to a customer, their ears perk up and they like the idea of it being 8K instead of 4K for sure, and instead of 6K. The red film's at 6K, and even the Komodo, if I had that, that's also 6K, so it's just not quite as big as the 8K and the flexibility there. The 8K being used on filming for the driving shots. Okay, it is very challenging getting cars that are upwards of $300,000 driving right next to the other car that you're in and asking them to get as close as possible. And there's plenty of times where they're just not going to get close enough comfortably. You're trying to stay a bit wider so the shot looks more stable, because if you're zoomed in a lot, then the further you zoom in, the shakier your shot's going to be, even on a gimbal system, even on a hydraulic arm. By staying a little bit zoomed out wide, it covers that up a bit more. But being able to crop in on 8K is a really big difference. I mean, I've filmed in 6K plenty. I've used to do a lot of these car videos with 6K in the red, and that was like a game changer versus just 4K. because being able to crop in on the image in post for a car that was further away, there's just no way of getting around. Also, it's helpful if the car stays a bit further away, sometimes because of the reflection issues that can happen inside the car. So if you're driving or riding in a white vehicle or a red vehicle, whatever, that vehicle, the closer it is to the expensive car or truck that you're filming, you're going to get reflection issues. Your vehicle will appear in there, and that does happen. If you really look close at the videos, you're going to spot, if you wanted to look for it, where's Waldo at, you're going to be able to spot the vehicle that we're driving in right next, reflecting in the vehicle that we're filming, especially on a black vehicle. Black is the hardest. Black is the most reflective. Okay, so black vehicles are the hardest to film, know that. And that can be an issue too when you're doing studio lighting and the reflection issues that happen with the environment around you. So you really have to get it far away from a lot of things so you don't have too many reflections in the car if you're trying to, not have that so it's not distracting. A little bit off topic there. So why did I use the R5 C for that driving stuff? Being able to crop in with that 8K is amazing. Okay, it just gave me a lot more shots that I otherwise wouldn't have had. I think it looks great. The client thinks it looks great. The Canon R5 C is a beast. 8K is not overkill for these situations. And when you're being paid what I'm charging, you want to be able to deliver a great product. And I'm telling you, having a very tiny car far away that you couldn't get them to get close enough, depending on the driver, there's just you're going to have bad video. That's all there is to it. You want to be able to crop in more. 4K is not as powerful as 8K. 8K is twice as big. Another thing I wanted to point out about the Canon is the codec that I'm using is raw light. That's the majority of the filming that I do on the camera. I have never used the full raw highest quality setting. I do think that is overkill. The raw light is so flexible and fantastic. I just don't need to go to the bigger codec. I've done the difference is so marginal and the file size is so much larger and it's so much harder on my computer. It's just not worth it. But the raw light is absolutely fantastic. It really feels just as flexible as the red as far as color goes, even though it's 12-bit versus 16-bit. It's just been absolutely amazing, super flexible. So raw light's the way I like to go. Just on the editing end alone on this project, I just wanted to touch on that before I end this video. If you watch it, I think, just keep in mind if this is just for people, if you're making videos for people for money, try and be creative with coming up with a story for a presentation. Just because you're being hired to make a video for a product and the client is hiring you to make like some kind of just visuals or this, that, think outside the box, bring that concept to the client. You're the creative. Bring more to the table than they thought to hire you for. Not only will the end product be cooler in the end, it'll be a cooler portfolio piece, the client's going to be happier, but you'll also be able to present enough creative ideas that if you can sell to the client these ideas, they're going to expand the budget. So you're getting, you can make more money because it's going to take more time to do these ideas. But that's what you want. You want to be able to afford to do the best possible job that you can. Inevitably, if you charge low enough rates, you will hit a wall inevitably where you just cannot spend as much time on a project as you may have wanted to, because you have to move on to another project to keep bringing in the money to pay the bills. If you're paid the full tilt price that you can come up with a concept for, then you are going to grow as a cinematographer, an editor, a director, because you're in more situations and covering a wider gamut of things. So I really recommend try to, just a little bit of advice if you're trying to get higher budgets, you need to bring to the table concepts that get them so excited that they would be willing to spend more. And I'm really gentle on soft selling that idea. I think the contagiousness that happens from an excited, enthusiastic artist that just has ideas that they're throwing out that could, if we wanted to do that, take this. I'm not pressuring to do that. We can stick with the original idea that I was hired for. That's totally fine. But just know I couldn't help but think of this idea, and I wanted you to know that it's an option. It would cost this much extra to do it, and then go from there. A lot of times, I'm telling you, you can get that budget increase as long as the idea is good enough. and you sound excited enough and passionate enough about doing it. Oh, and the last thing I also want to point out is the music really makes my videos. I'm a musician, I'm a band guy, you know, I have my show Cue the Muses where we're, you know, it's a rock album that we're unveiling as a scripted sci-fi comedy, and in each episode we unveil a new music video, and so I'm way into music.
With no emotion, silenced emotions. In my eyes, can you see my soul? It still burns as it's growing old.
I have found that my videos don't get to start coming to life until I find the right music for a particular video. I'm big on that. It's great finding tracks that have an instrumental and one with vocals if you want to incorporate vocals. The problem with vocals is that it makes a song super catchy, but it also starts to conflict with the dialogue from your interviews if you're doing something in a documentary style.
This starts life as an LT1 block, which is what the donor car comes with. We go through, clean up the cylinder walls, and get the whole new rotating assembly, all Calis, cranking rods, stuff that's made to handle a lot more power than we're even throwing at it currently. Aftermarket Brian Thule camshaft, as well as their valve train components, all built around boosted application stuff, of course, because we're strapping a supercharger on top of it.
Or if you're trying to even carry filmed conversations that you had with people.
I looked at the original schematic from General Motors, and they have a blueprint layout of exactly how the stripes are done. In 1970, when they came out with the cowl induction hood, they changed the layout of the stripes, so we're going with the second version of it. And what the schematic says is that on this side over here, the stripes end 0.95 inches away from the tip. They're 2.28 inches from this body line that runs right down here, 0.3 of an inch wide, with a 0.28 inch gap, and from the center line, it's 1.66 inches to here. What I did was I converted out all over to millimeters so I can get it really precise, and I've got everything all laid out exactly to the original schematic, and it's within 1 millimeter anywhere, so it's probably better than it was done from General Motors initially.
But you'll see, like, for instance, in this particular Trans Am video, it's like I'm toggling back and forth between the instrumental. I'm remixing the song, so I'm stretching out parts, making them cut to just instrumental, and then when I need them to talk, and then cutting back to, this is the intro of the video, that I think is pretty captivating for people. And then it cuts back to, now here's the lyrics and stuff, and then it just kind of keeps elevating the song and growing. So that bounce back and forth really was the concept of making that opening intro as compelling and captivating as it ended up being. I guess I'm tooting my own horn here. I'm not really trying, I'm just saying, if you watch it and you get that vibe from it too, that is what's going on there. I mean, I'm remixing the song. So unfortunately, there's a, I say unfortunately, there's a remix tool inside of Adobe Premiere where you can take a song and just stretch it out. I have used it occasionally, but it's nothing like, it randomly picks out the part that it does to repeat and loop, and then I can't get it to fall. Remixing your song is huge. If you can get the hang of it, where you're cutting and repeating certain parts and you're manipulating when you need a part to happen longer before it gets to the climax of where the chorus is, because you need it, like, I really recommend getting into exploring that, because then you're building a score. Even though it's not a score song, you're building a score for your video, and that's how it starts to feel. It starts to feel right. It starts to feel like it's really customized for that video. So I'm really big on the music part of it. I think that's a huge part of how this video came out. And there's many other things that I could talk about the production, the editing, the approach, and all that stuff. But for this video, I primarily wanted to just talk about why I use the Canon R5 C more often than the Red. If I had to stack image to image, sometimes I literally do like the image I get better out of the Canon. And then sometimes I really like the Red image better. And there is just a magic with the Red that's absolutely beautiful. I love it. I'm not saying the Canon R5 C looks better than the Red. It doesn't per se, but yes, sometimes I do get shots that I like more with it. Just the idea that it's that powerful is unbelievable for the price point that the camera is. So it's just still a completely relevant, great camera. You know, get whatever you want to get. This is just my experience using the camera, no regrets. And I still think about maybe getting a second one. Being able to travel with two for the A and B angle would be nice. Again, the Red is just more cumbersome. And then I'd have the 8K and all that jazz. So, and I can fit it in more little places, and it's more discreet in certain situations where you're not allowed to film with the full camera. I mean, this mirrorless world, what you can get away with filming wise versus an actual cinema camera setup. You just can't, you know, immediately it's like, do you have a permit for that? Or are you allowed to be here? You can't film here. That doesn't really come up when you're holding one of these types of cameras, and the power that's inside of it is just absolutely insane. I hope you guys are doing well. I want to make more videos. I'll make them as I can. I am busy. I've got some really exciting new frontier level projects coming up. I'm going to be around the country. I'm just stoked. So fun. I'm going to be taking the Canon R5 C with me a lot. I will be taking the Red with me on one where I'm driving, but if I'm flying, it's just the R5 C and then a Canon R. I've still got the original R as a B cam. And I don't feel like I'm really lacking when I do that. What I am lacking when I fly though is being able to bring all my various tools, like my lights and stands and stuff. I'm huge on that. So it's a trade-off. We'll see what production package they end up choosing. That'll affect how much gear I can bring, if I'm driving, if I'm flying, all that kind of stuff. So I'll catch you guys on another episode. I know this was long-winded, but hey, if you just wanted to hang and talk about the camera and its real-world application and this recent video that just came out with the Trans Am, that's what this video is. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.